This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. The holidays are over, the decorations are down, and suddenly everything feels a little empty. It's normal to feel the winter blues after the holiday excitement. January, February, and March are by far my least favorite months of the year. It's cold and dark, and I have to get some extra vitamin D on board. I also need to keep my regular scheduled appointments with my therapist. So if you're feeling that post-holiday funk, I definitely suggest you checking out BetterHelp because maybe it's time to talk. You might also be one of those people like me who makes New Year's resolutions and you get super motivated. So maybe you need someone behind you to hold you accountable and come up with a plan to meet your goals. BetterHelp is super convenient, totally online. You have a therapist right at your fingertips whenever you need them. So head over to betterhelp.com/wifeofcrime1 to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/wifeofcrime1 for 10% off your first month.
Bored at home? Head over to Chumba Casino and join some serious social casino fun. With hundreds of games at your fingertips, no purchase necessary. You can play anytime, anywhere. There's a special welcome bonus waiting for you when you sign up. Play for fun, play for free, and you could even redeem some great prizes. Visit ChumbaCasino.com and get ready to reel in the fun. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.
So Russ, this week, I'm going to tell you what is probably my all-time favorite true crime story. I know that's a lot to live up to because there's so many stories that I love, but this story literally made an impact on my soul. It's something that you will never, ever forget. This is the case of Mary Vincent. Hey everyone, welcome back to Wife of Crime. This is Jess.
And I'm here too.
And that's Russ.
Me.
And we're here again this week to go over another story where I don't know what I'm saying. I always try to think of good intros and I never can think of anything good. I'm here
That's why
to
you should have
tell
let me
Russ
do it.
a story and he has his typical reactions.
All right, so I'm going to start this over. So, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Wife of Crime. It's your boy, Russ, and I have Confused Jess here with me today, and she's going to tell me a story that I probably don't know.
You might know a little bit about this story, but anyway. So, this week in true crime news, if anyone's been paying attention, there was a woman found in the desert. She was left for dead, and she was found in the desert during like a routine check of Edwards Air Force Base. She hadn't eat or drank anything in 5 days. She was tortured, raped, beaten, and left for dead in the desert. And it was a father-daughter duo who did this. Their names are Stanley Lawton, who's 54 years old, and his daughter Shania Lawton, who's 22 years old. And apparently they kidnapped her at gunpoint and took her to this house where they kept her for 5 days and tortured her.
Their house?
No, so it wasn't their house. It was a house in California, maybe one they owned or, I don't know, an abandoned one. I have no idea. All the details aren't out yet. But they kept her there, tortured her, raped her, beat her, and then threw her body in the desert.
That's crazy that they didn't even, kill her out of mercy. They just wanted her to, suffer and wither away in the desert.
How terrible is that? So she was found by some military people doing, a routine check of the Air Force Base. They just happened upon this woman.
Wow.
How nuts.
So I guess they don't do that check so often. It's every 5 days.
Well, no, she wasn't in the desert for 5 days. She was in the house for 5 days.
And they just dumped her?
And then they dumped her body, and then they found her. And no, the check isn't done very often, so it was
She got lucky.
She got very lucky.
Well, hopefully those people that did that rot And
I know. It's just weird to me
buried
that
him
it's
under
a
the jail.
father-daughter duo.
Yeah, like raping father-daughter duo. That doesn't even make sense. That's some Hills Have Eyes shit.
That's weird, right?
Yeah.
Ugh. So, after you're the one that sent me the link to that story.
Yeah, I didn't read it though. I just sent you the link. I was like, maybe you could tell me about it.
Well, they don't have a lot of information yet.
I didn't click the link or nothing. I just was like on Yahoo looking at like news and stuff.
Yeah. Well, you sent me the link. Of course, I was like, oh my God. And I looked into it. There's not a whole lot of information, but it reminded me of what is probably my absolute number one true crime story of all time. And I chose...
That's big shoes to fill.
It is. It's big shoes to fill, but this story will fill them because it's the most insane story I've ever heard.
I wonder what my number one true crime is. I liked Ed Kemper. That was pretty cool. But I think it's just because I watched him on Mindhunter.
True. And you really like serial killers.
Yeah.
Well, this story that I'm about to tell you is absolutely insane. And it's probably my number one. And I had been planning to do the story for our 20th episode. So I was just really excited to do it this week. And then when you sent me the link to that story, it was just kind of like crazy timing because I was already planning to do this one.
I always do good things.
So I'm going to tell you the story of Mary Vincent and Larry Singleton.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I have no choice. What do you mean, am I ready? What would have you done if I said no?
I don't know. I noticed that I always say that before I tell you the story. I always say that. In
Are you ready?
Other episodes, I go, are you ready? And you go, yeah.
Like, nah, let's do it later. We just set up the mics and everything on the table, but we'll do it later. Go ahead. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Okay, so I'm going to set the stage.
Okay.
So it's September 1978 in Modesto, California. A 15-year-old girl named Mary Vincent, she started dating this new guy, and her parents already didn't get along very well, but now she
First mistake right there. 15-year-old girls shouldn't be dating.
Well, yeah.
Where's the dad?
I don't know, but her parents and her weren't really getting along, and she started dating this boy, and he's her new boyfriend. They decide it's a good idea to run away together. So she lives in Las Vegas. That's where she's from. And they decide to leave Las Vegas and run off to California. And they end up in Modesto, California. Once they get there, they get pulled over at like a routine traffic stop. And the boyfriend has an outstanding warrant and he gets arrested.
In my mind, when you run away, you don't have a car.
Well, he had a car. He was older.
So they should call it a drive away.
Okay, well,
I'm driving away. I'm tired of this place.
You know what I mean. So she goes off with her new boyfriend.
Well, that's like called moving. If you drive off, you just moved.
Well, I guess they moved, but they ran. She's 15, so she technically is a runaway because she's a minor. He's a little older. He has a car. She leaves with him, runs off to California, drives off to California, whatever you want to say. They end up in Modesto. They get pulled over for a routine traffic stop. The guy has an outstanding warrant and gets arrested and leaves Mary completely alone. She doesn't have a car. She has no money. She has no food. She has nowhere to live.
And now she's a real runaway.
Now she's a real runaway out in California alone. And after this happens, she decides, okay, the fun's over. I got to go home. Like, it's time to get my butt home. So she has no money, like I said. She's living on the streets. And back in the 70s, as we know, everyone hitchhiked places.
Idiots.
And this wasn't an idiotic thing. Everybody did it back then. So it wasn't necessarily safe.
You know who else thought
normal.
It was a good idea? Ed Kemper.
He did. Yeah.
He killed people because when he was hit, they were hitchhiking. He took them in the car and they were dead.
We're looking at this hindsight, Russ. There's a lot of
And that was in our first episode.
That
if you never heard that one.
That was. A lot of things that we do, we're going to look 20, 30 years from now look back on and be like, that was stupid that society did that.
Not me.
But in the moment, a lot of people hitchhiked, and it was a normal thing.
Was there no public transportation back then?
She had no money.
You're better off asking the bus driver, can I get on and not pay the fare, instead of, hey, random man, can this young girl get in your car?
Well, anyway, that's beside the point. You have to get past this point. She decided to hitchhike. So there's conflicting stories about if Mary was hitchhiking back to Las Vegas or if she was going to her grandfather's house in LA. But regardless, Modesto is north of LA and Las Vegas, and she needed to head south. So she was standing on the side of the road with a sign that said going south. And there were other people.
Ooh, that's a little pervert-ish for these guys to see a young girl on the side of the road with a going south sign.
Everybody was holding up signs that said South or Boston or LA or, that's just what they did. Why would your mind even go there?
She's basically holding up a sign that says kill and rape me.
No,
on the side of the road.
She's 15. And there are two people. There's a couple who is on the road with her with a sign that says South also. They're going south also. They're going in the same direction. This is just normal back then.
3 peas in a pod. You know what this is? This sounds like a buy one, get 2 free killings. There's 3 idiots on the side of the road. But I'm going to stop interrupting you and let you go.
Because they're not idiots. She's 15. You don't know if...
You're never too young to be stupid.
You don't know any 15-year-olds. You're going to really regret all of this judginess that you're doing right now once I tell you this story, because... You're being very judgmental.
Obviously, something bad's going to happen. She's making a lot of bad decisions.
Well, you're being very judgmental. Stop.
I'm Russ the Judger.
You are. You're very judgy.
I'm judging you for looking at me with this dirty look as a bad person.
Well, you're being judgy.
Just go.
She's 15 years old. She's naive. You don't know any 15-year-olds, but when you were 15, you weren't like super smart. Stop acting like you were smarter than everyone.
I didn't hitchhike.
When you were 15. No one hitchhiked when we were 15.
Just go.
Anyway.
Heard that deep breath? She's really upset.
Well, you're getting me really heated. So she is she's on this road holding up this sign saying that she's going south, right? And there's a couple on the street with her going in the same direction. A blue van pulls up and says, hey, I can take someone, but I can only take one person. I only have room for one.
So he picked her because she's alone. You could say I could take one. The other won't be like, all right, I'll leave my boyfriend. Or the boyfriend will be like, see you, chick. So obviously he said, hey, you young girl going south, get in.
I get it, but you are looking at this from a different angle. So anyway,
I'm looking at it from Russ' angle.
This blue van pulls up. The guy in the van is an old man. He looks like pretty old, weathered. He kind of looks like a grandfather type, just old and fat and weathered. So Mary
just shitted on her grandpas.
No, I just said old and fat and weathered.
Grandpa types.
No. You manipulate everything.
Shout out to the handsome grandpas out there. Don't let Jess bring you down.
There are some grandpas out there. Be quiet.
Yeah, I see some grandpas jogging around and stuff. Some grandpas are doing all right.
There are, but this particular man, when you look at his picture,
look like Jess's
he's
grandpa.
Old. No, I don't have any grandpas that are still alive.
Oh, we didn't have to go there.
I don't. He is old and fat and weathered. That's what Larry Singleton looks like. Okay? You're really getting on my nerves today.
It's kind of fun.
It's not fun. So, this is my favorite story. Let me tell it.
Go ahead.
So, Mary, you have to remember, she's 15. She's naive. She's also desperate to get home because she has no money, no food, nowhere to stay. She just wants to get back home now that her boyfriend is arrested and she has nothing, okay? So in this desperate moment and being young and dumb, she decides she's not threatened by this man. He's old and she's not threatened by him, so she's going to get in the van. The couple says to her, I don't think this is a good idea. You shouldn't be alone with him. And she contemplates it for a second, but then she decides He seems okay.
Are you mad at this
and
couple
I need
for telling
to get
her that?
home, and I need to get home, so she gets in the van.
There was no hindsight. This was all right away. People knew.
So you have to remember, though, when you're desperate, Russ, you don't think
Just keep
logically.
going with the damn story.
You don't think logically about things, especially being that young. Okay, so Mary gets in the van, and they start driving. He was being really nice to her. He offered her something to eat, something to drink. He started talking about his 15-year-old daughter. He said, I have a 15-year-old daughter at home. I can't imagine her being out on the streets like this. Of course, I don't mind taking you. It just makes me sad that you're stuck out here. I want to get you home safe. So she started feeling a lot better. So this goes on for about an hour.
This guy was a pro.
Him being really nice. Exactly. Him being really nice to her and, just treating her really well. So as they keep driving, and they have a long drive ahead of them, they're going about 4 to 8 hours, depending on which direction. I mean, they're going south, but if they're going to Vegas, that's an 8-hour drive. If they're going to LA, it's a 4.5-hour drive. So after about an hour or so, she dozes off in the passenger seat. She dozes off because she's exhausted. And after a little while, she eventually wakes up, and she gets her bearings about her. And she looks out the window and she realizes they're going in the wrong direction.
Not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy.
So they're going in the wrong direction. She looks over at Larry, who is now drinking a clear, strong smelling substance out of a gallon milk carton, which is really gross. If you're drinking liquor out of a milk carton, imagine how bad that probably smelled. Ugh.
Poor weathered grandpa is going to finish her. I know where this is going.
So he's
not poor weathered grandpa. He sounds like a piece of shit.
He's a terrible person. So he's drinking liquor out of a milk carton.
It's definitely moonshine.
Yeah, probably moonshine or whatever. So this is what she sees. His whole aura has changed now because he's probably drunk at this point. His whole aura has changed. He's not this nice, grandpa figure
now
anymore.
He's a bad grandpa.
She looks out the window, sees that they're going in the wrong direction, and now she's starting to get a little freaked out. She looks down and she sees a nightstick on the ground, like one of those nightsticks that cops have. So she picks it up, right? And she's, this is a 15-year-old girl. She's trying her best, all right? She picks it up and she holds it up in the air, and she looks at him and she says, "You're going the wrong way. You know you're going the wrong way. You need to turn around, or you need to let me out of this van right now." Okay? So Larry Singleton pulls over on a deserted road in the desert. She looks down and realizes that her shoe is untied, and she hops out of the van because she's like, if I'm going to outrun this guy, like she's getting real like fight or flight.
Survival tip number 1, always keep your shoes tied tight.
Very good survival tip.
I always tie my shoes. I always have them tied, even though, in New York we wear our sneakers. We like a little loose, looking cool, but I always keep them tied because you never know.
It's actually true, guys. He really does. And this is something he lives by. He always keeps his sneakers tied tight.
Not tight, like choking them like...
No, not tied tight.
Like a dad with a pair of tight New Balances on where like the sides are touching. Not like that.
Not like that. But he does keep his sneakers
snug,
tied so that he can run at any moment.
Or defend myself.
Or defend himself. It's actually true. He really does.
Yeah. Russell's survival tip number... I don't know how many numbers. I probably gave you a lot of gems here. Write them down and hashtag them all or something. I'm going to keep you alive.
Okay, so she looks down. She says, "Okay, my shoe's untied. I got to tie my shoe because if I'm going to outrun this guy," which she's very confident.
He's a fat grandpa.
Yeah, she's like, "I can definitely outrun this guy, but I can't do it if my shoe's not tied." So she gets out of the van. She bends over and she's tying her shoe. As she does this, Larry comes from around the van and he hits her on the head with a sledgehammer.
Oh, dip.
Mary blacks out. She then wakes up, comes to, and she's tied up, feet and hands bound in the back of the van. He begins to rape her, and she fights as hard as she can, but he keeps raping her and beating her and raping her and beating her over and over again. And he does this for hours. Hours, Russ. Damn. Finally, He, being drunk and after all of that struggle, he passes out in like a drunken stupor. He falls over, passes out. And now she's like, okay, this is my chance. I got to get away, right? She's completely naked and she's trying everything she can to get untied. She's tied by these ropes. So she's looking for tools. She's trying to get out of it. She can't get out of it. She's just stuck there with him in the back of this van while he's passed out.
That's a nightmare.
It gets so much worse. Guys, this story gets so much worse. It's like insane.
Don't say it gets worse. Just tell us. Keep going.
So Larry eventually, he woke back up. And Mary was crying and begging him to let her go. She's saying, please just set me free. Just set me free. Just let me go. And she kept saying it over and over again. Just set me free. Just set me free. Begging and pleading, but he doesn't. He continues to rape her through the entire night. Okay.
Holy moly.
She remembers seeing the sun come up after hours of being beaten and raped. She sees the sun come up in the window. So this goes on for multiple hours. She's naked and covered in blood. Eventually, when in the next morning, he decides to pull her out of the van. So he takes her, picks her up, pulls her out of the van, and she's continuing to beg for him to let her go and set her free. And he says to her, you want to be set free? I'll set you free. He goes into his toolbox. Are you ready for this? He goes into his toolbox. He grabs a hatchet, right? She stands up. He takes the hatchet, he swings it, and he cuts off her left arm.
Holy moly.
Off. Okay.
You can't, he probably had to whack it a bunch of times. I feel like you can't get through it one whack.
One whack. Cuts off her arm.
Poof.
Okay. She's in total shock. She falls to the ground. Blood is spraying out
That's
of
it.
her stump. Right?
You have like arteries and stuff, right? That'll shoot out.
He cuts her below the elbow. Okay.
Oh, in my mind, I thought it was like at the shoulder. She said
No,
the arm. I thought it was the whole arm.
Yeah, I should have specified. Below the elbow. So that's not a long bone. You know, if it was the humerus that he was trying to get through, it probably would be a couple whacks. But since it's lower below the elbow, these are less strong bones. So
How to cut off arm 101 we're going through here.
right, we are. So her arm gets cut off, right? Blood spraying out of it. She falls to the ground. She's disoriented. She reaches up, she grabs his arm with her right hand to pull herself up because she's just like freaking out, right? She grabs his arm with her right hand to try to pull herself up. He takes the hatchet and he swings and chops at her right arm, but it doesn't go the first chop. It doesn't come up. So 3 chops. Chop, 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 chops it off. She falls to the ground with 2 stumps, right? Blood gushing out.
Your story stinks.
It gets worse. Blood gushing out of her arms. She looks in the distance and she sees him flicking his arm, like back and forth, flicking it, because her hand was gripped so tight on his arm that when he cut it off, the hand stayed gripped.
That's like when a chicken runs around with its head cut off.
Yeah, the hand is still gripping his arm. So finally he gets her hand off of his arm.
You know what it reminds me of?
What?
The Addams Family, the hand that runs around.
Yes, it's like...
What's it called? Is it called hand? I don't know.
It's called hand, yeah.
Oh.
So, okay. So now she's laying on the ground. Blood is gushing out from her stumps. And she doesn't necessarily pass out, but she just falls over, right? He then looks at her, realizes that she's dead. He takes her lifeless body. He drags her naked, lifeless body.
The Addams Family's hand's name is called Thing.
Thing, not hand. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So he looks over, he sees her laying on the ground, lifeless. He drags her lifeless body like 200 feet to a cliff.
Oh, someone got to get this guy.
He kicks her over a 30-foot cliff. Right? Her body's laying at the bottom of the cliff, but to him, this isn't enough. So he climbs down.
But she's already dead.
The 30-foot cliff. He takes the body and he stuffs it into a cement pipe.
Ah.
Okay. So now she's in this cement pipe. He leaves. He gets in the van. He drives off. He leaves her for dead, whatever. No one's ever going to remember her. He had his fun. It's over.
I don't like that you called it fun.
Well, to him, it was fun.
All right, I'm just saying.
Okay. Well, you say buy one, get one free. You say all these things, and then I say that this man had fun doing this and that you don't like it.
Well, you're not funny.
You're not funny either.
Some people like me. Remember the hashtags? Hashtag we like Russ. There's a few out there, and they happen like every week. Do it again, people. Remind her. And don't forget, hashtag just a hater.
I'm not a hater. Sometimes. So Mary's body is stuffed in a cement pipe now. But Mary is not dead.
How do you not die?
She's not dead. Okay.
Would she stop her blood? How you stop bleeding?
I'm going to tell you. So she's laying in this cement pipe. She's not dead. And she hears this voice inside of her saying, don't go to sleep. Mary, don't go to sleep. Because she's really tired.
Oh, I
she
can
wants
imagine.
to do is go
You
to
lost
sleep.
all your blood.
And his voice keeps saying, he's going to do this to someone else. Don't go to sleep. You got to get out of here. So she climbs out of this cement pipe and she sees mud, like a puddle of mud. She takes her stumps. She has the forethought to take her stumps, shove them in the mud to create like a pack that'll seal so the blood will stop gushing out.
Wow, I don't know if I would have thought of all that.
I wouldn't have thought of all that. I would have died.
I probably would have went to sleep.
I would have went to sleep
I'm like,
too.
I'm tired. This just got to end. Whenever I'm aggravated in real life, I just go to sleep.
You do.
I'm like, I can't deal with this shit. I'm going to sleep.
You do. It's so true. You do that.
My body shuts down. I'm like, I'm out.
Anytime he's annoyed at anything, he's just like, I'm going to sleep. And he goes to sleep. It's so true. You would have definitely been dead.
Yeah, I would. You know what I'm thinking of too? Since her arms got cut off, isn't there like an Eminem song? It's like, of course, I don't have no arms.
I have no idea.
All right, well, someone heard that before. Or maybe it's legs in the song. Never mind, that was weird. Just keep going.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. So Mary takes her stumps, puts them in the mud to pack the wound so that the blood stops gushing out, which is so smart. She then takes dirt, puts it on top of the mud to seal it. Okay. She then says, I got to get out of here. I got to get to a highway. I got to get to a road. She's completely naked, covered in blood. Her arms are chopped off, and she climbs up this 30-foot cliff.
With no arms.
With no arms, no
Did she roll
hands.
up the cliff?
No idea, but it took her hours, and she climbed up this 30-foot cliff. Okay. It's now, at this point, it's been the entire day. Because remember, in the morning is when he chopped her arms off. Now we're into the nighttime. It's just the moon and stars, and she's in the middle of the desert. There's no light anywhere.
Looking like a monster on the road. Now, the question is, would you stop?
I haven't gotten anywhere to that point yet. You got to wait.
I wouldn't stop.
So
I'd be scared it's a monster.
She climbs up. She hears the sound of a freeway. That's all she has no lights. So all she's going by is the sound. Imagine, like, just stop for a second and imagine the situation. Like, how desperate you are, how hurt you are. You haven't eaten or drank anything. You've lost so much blood. You're weak. And all you're relying on is your hearing to get you to the road, which is miles away.
How about her eyes?
She can't see. It's dark. It's the desert.
We can see a little bit.
I mean, there's moonlight.
Yeah, you could see. Not just her ears full. She's looking, too.
Yeah, but it's really hard to see in the desert, in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
No lights. So she runs. She finally, after hours, gets to this freeway. It's the middle of the night. And she's running down the freeway looking like this. There is a car with two men in it in a red convertible, and they see her from a distance and they start to slow down and they pull up near her, but then as soon as they see her, they speed off because they're scared.
Bruh, she looks like a monster. How are you alive with no arms, covered in mud?
I know, but I mean, come on, they're two grown men. She's a 15-year-old girl. She's young.
I know. I know if I knew the story, I would stop and help. But if you see that, I mean, if we were in the car and you're like, Russ, stop, I'd be like, no.
Really? If you see a 15-year-old girl covered
You don't
in
know
blood,
her age. She's not
naked-
holding a sign anymore because she doesn't have arms to hold the sign.
Shut up. And I'm the insensitive one. No, but you can tell she's young. You can tell she's a young girl, a teenage girl.
Yeah, and I don't know. She's covered in mud. You don't know what she's looking like. A zombie, or like she's looking like a crackhead in the South Bronx.
Oh, God, don't say that. Ugh, don't say that. That's so mean.
No, it's an insult to the crackheads, not her.
I know.
She didn't choose to look like that.
I know, but
Smoking crack is optional. If you look like that, you smoke crack. That's not my fault.
okay. So the first car drove past her. These two men, they were sissies, and they drove past her.
I might have sissied out.
The second car
Sorry.
eventually came, and
I'll help you if you have arms.
And it was a couple on their honeymoon. They got lost and took a wrong turn and ended up on this highway. They weren't even supposed to be there. They see her, they pull over, they grab a bunch of towels from their luggage and they wrap her up in these towels. They call 911 and a helicopter comes and picks her up in the middle of the desert and helivacs her to the nearest hospital, the nearest trauma center.
Wow, good for them.
She lost half of the blood in her body. Half of the blood, which is like...
How much blood do you need to survive?
You need...
What's the most you could lose? A half?
I mean, probably a half. I mean, it's pretty... That's like...
I'm asking an ER nurse and she's not giving me a real answer.
Because I don't know exactly physiologically how much blood your body needs to survive, because she lost half of her blood and she still survived. On top of losing half
So we're going to go a half.
On top of losing half of her blood, she became septic, which is when your blood gets a bacteria in it and you have an infection in your blood.
Wait, she has mud in her stuff.
So she became septic, which people die of sepsis every day. Being septic is pretty serious.
Is that from getting like germs in an open wound?
You can become septic from having a bacterial infection that's not taken care of. Like if you got pneumonia and you never treated it, eventually you could become septic. The bacteria could travel to your bloodstream.
I'm not going to get pneumonia because I don't want to.
Any bacteria in your body, you're so stupid. Any bacteria.
Well, that's why I don't get sick, because I don't want to get sick.
You're annoying.
But it's true. Do I get sick?
You don't get sick.
Because I don't want to.
It's annoying that you say that as your reason. Anyway, so any bacteria that gets introduced to your body, it could eventually, if it's not taken care of, you don't take antibiotics, it could travel to your bloodstream and you can become septic.
Survival tip number 2 from Russ of this episode is don't get sick. If you could see her face, some things I say just to bother her.
I know you're saying this just to bother me, so I'm going to pretend it doesn't.
But I know it really does because she's pretending.
Okay, so she gets to the hospital. She ends up spending, days upon days in the hospital. While she's in the hospital, though, she wants to see the police. She asks to see the police right away. Like right after they bandaged up her arms and she got some antibiotics in her system, she asked to see the police. The police came. She wanted to put a composite sketch together because she remembered his face.
Wow.
And she wanted him to be caught. She was determined to catch him.
I'm dying to know if this guy got caught.
So Larry Singleton's composite sketch got put on the news, and his neighbor saw it and recognized him right away.
Wow. So, because I always think composite sketches are bullshit. Because, like, if someone asked me to describe you, like, obviously I know what you look like, but I don't know if I could describe it to get drawn. Like, all right, raise the cheekbones a little, lower them, fix your eye. I don't know.
I don't know, but the sketch that they created was really good, and the neighbor saw it, recognized him immediately, and called the police.
They was like, that's the fat, out-of-shape grandpa.
Exactly.
I wonder if he has kids.
And he does. I'll get to that. So he was in custody within 10 days of the crime. How fast is that? She was so determined to get the sketch done and to get his description out there that he was caught within 10 days.
Now, this is one of those times where it should be like in the Bible, an eye for an eye. They should chop that fucker's arms off.
They don't. So let me tell you.
And then maybe shove him up his butt.
Let me tell you what happens. So, So he was caught within 10 days of the attack and taken to jail and put on trial. The next time that Mary Vincent saw him was in court months later. She gave her testimony for the jury. She told every detail because she was determined to put him in prison.
Oh my God! Don't. If he gets off, I'm never doing a podcast again.
So his defense was a total lie, but he says that he picked up 3 people that day, 2 men and Mary and himself were all in the van, okay? He says that they all started drinking and doing drugs and smoking weed. He drove them out to the desert and he passed out. And then he woke up in the desert and his van was gone. And anything that happened to Mary happened because someone else did it and he has nothing to do with it. They did it in his van and that's it. And then eventually he got his van back somehow. I don't know. But it was a bullshit story and the jury didn't buy it.
Good.
So the jury convicted him of multiple charges. But since he didn't murder her, the maximum sentence, he got like 7 charges. And the maximum sentence for his charges was 14 years.
Wow.
14 years. Okay. Larry Singleton.
He like worse than murdered her because he like
tortured her.
He tortured her and then like he thought she was dead.
He tortured her and maimed her. He chopped her arms off.
What's maim?
When you chop a limb off of someone.
Okay.
So Larry Singleton, this is going to make you mad, so you're never going to do a podcast again. Larry Singleton was paroled after only serving 8 years.
Wow. I'll do half podcast because you got like half a sentence.
From now on, not all the episodes will include you?
Yeah, I'll jump in for like 5 minutes.
You're so full of shit. He only got 8 years.
Does she go kill him?
8 years.
She should go get him.
No, but let me finish the story and you'll find out.
He's obviously going to kill someone and go back in. This isn't someone that just randomly did this, like a random, how do you say?
Like a random attack.
It wasn't like a random attack. This is something that he does, like it's in him. Because it wasn't like an opportunist.
It's too brutal.
Yeah.
So he served 8 years. That's it. He was paroled in Contra Costa County, California, but no town in the area would take him. Anytime they tried, the state of California tried to place him in a town, there were protests because this became a national news story.
Instead of protests, it should have been like street justice. Put him in the street and let people, like, I don't know, stone him to death or something.
Well, they gave him a bulletproof vest.
They'll protect him.
They protected him because they're not allowed to let him die. But there were protests in every town, so they had no place to place him for his year-long parole sentence. So what they ended up doing was getting a trailer and putting it on the San Quentin property and letting him live in this trailer, this double-wide trailer in San Quentin, in the property.
The San Quentin jail?
Yeah, the prison, so that he could do his year of parole. Because no town would take him.
Who makes these dumb decisions?
So after a year and his parole was up, he ended up moving back to Florida. Florida is actually where he's from.
That's where all the crazy people are from.
Yeah, Florida. You guys are listening.
Yeah, shout out to. We got some good amount of Florida people, but either you're crazy or your neighbor is. There's a good chance.
There's a good chance. There's a lot of weird stuff out of Florida.
Yeah.
Maybe in the next episode or episode after, I'll do a Florida story.
Oh, it won't be hard to find.
Probably not.
There's always some crazy stuff going on over there.
It's true. So he moved back to Florida in 1990, okay? In 1997, police responded to a domestic disturbance call, and they found the body of Roxanne Hayes in his home. She was stabbed multiple times. Mary Vincent traveled all the way from California to Tampa, Florida.
She should have killed him.
To testify against him in his hearing for this murder trial. And he was sentenced to death. He died of cancer in prison in 2001. So he
lived way too long.
He did. So now one good thing that came out of this whole story, though, is Mary Vincent pushed a piece of legislation to Congress. And they passed this legislation called the Singleton Bill. And it was passed by Congress in 1987. And it states that if an offender uses torture Whether the person actually dies or not, if the person was tortured during a crime, then the offender would receive a sentence of 25 to life. And it's because she told her story to Congress and they passed this bill. So
Russ,
now,
the profiler, co-signs this legislation. Legislation. I did my best on that one.
So now anytime someone tortures someone, whether they die or not, they're getting 25 to life.
Wow, I'm looking at a picture of her right now. Mm-hmm. She got 2 hooks.
She has the
like
two,
Captain Hook.
She does. She has 2 pinchers because
They're called pinchers?
They're called pinchers.
So it's really not Captain Hook. He's Captain Pincher?
No, he has 1 hook. Captain Hook has a hook. She has 2 because they can. So it's hooked up to the muscles in her arms, so they can like catch and release. So she can pick things up with them. She can write with them. She can.
I bet nowadays there's something better than that.
Probably now, but she can write with them and everything now. So she can use them like hands because they can pinch things.
She's a strong woman.
So now Mary today, she's alive and well. She lives in Gig Harbor, Washington, in Washington State. She has 2 sons, and she's an artist.
And in this picture, she has 2 dogs.
Oh, and dogs.
So respect, Mary. Even though I made fun of your bad decisions when you were 15, I'm sorry a little bit.
You see, I told you would feel bad because that was
She got a raw deal there.
Yeah, she didn't deserve that. Yeah, you make bad decisions. Everybody makes bad decisions, but no one deserves
like making fun
like
of people
that.
Before you know what really happened.
Yeah, now you deserve something bad to happen to
I
you.
don't deserve nothing.
Because you made fun
I
of
deserve a lot of good things.
As long as you put out good energy, you receive good energy.
Shut up. What are you, a philosopher over here, Buddha?
So that's my
Just
favorite.
a philosopher over here.
That's my favorite true crime story. How crazily, amazingly, awful, wonderful is that story? It's not wonderful. It's wonderful that she survived, but it's a terrible story.
It was pretty uncomfortable, honestly.
It is uncomfortable.
I mean, good for her. She survived and she fought, and I probably just would have laid in that pipe and went to sleep. I would have been in my mind. I would have been like, "Guess it's time to go, Russ."
Yeah, you probably would have died. But she had this instinct inside of her. She knew if she just got out, she could get him caught. That they would catch him and she could stop him. So.
There's a lot of stuff on the internet, and there's a picture of this bastard here too that got her. There's all kind of stuff. I just Googled her name.
Yeah, it's a huge story. So like, I know that if you listen to true crime podcasts, then you've already probably heard this story. But since it's my favorite, I wanted to do it for our 20th episode. I want to do survivor stories here and there, and I just think this story is amazing. So I'm sure some of the people listening have heard this story.
But for you people that haven't, like a lot of me, there's other people like me, then it's interesting, and it was slightly awkward.
Well, thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah, everybody, keep sharing. The podcast is growing this week. We got the most listens we've gotten so far. I think it's because all you guys have been sharing it on the internet. I screenshotted some names I was going to shout out, but now I forgot, and it's too late. But I'll do that next time.
Yeah, we'll shout people out next time because I actually forgot to. I didn't write them down.
Yeah.
But I need to. But we'll definitely shout you guys out. Thank you so much for all your love and support, and thank you for commenting on our Instagram. Our Instagram is probably where we have the most interaction with people, so keep sharing and liking and commenting. We love hearing your feedback. It's really fun for us.
Yeah, and I've been jumping on the Instagram and commenting here and there through my regular Instagram, just saying what's up to the peeps.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
All right, everyone. Have a wonderful week.
Hashtag we like Russ. I'm out.
Bye.